Hi, everybody. My name is Barbara. I'm from DSEC, and with Peter, the cruel cat over there, we're working on a project called Closing the DNS-OARC Maturity Gap Through Automation. And we even got an ICANN grant for that. So cool and so meaningful, yeah. There's, of course, a technical part to the project, and that's Peter's turf. I swear the guy's a genius. And then there's the communication part. That's for me. And that's why I'm here today, hoping to offer an impulse on how image can get in the way of factual appreciation. You just did it, right? You put me into a box because of the way in which I addressed you, and which you immediately recognized as a typical feature of people usually not worth your while. And that's a very human thing to do. A faculty evolution has shaped in us because it's very helpful most of the time in order to cope with information overload and secure survival. But it has its drawbacks. Because although my talking style was unnerving, I agree, what I said was true. In this talk, I hope to offer a fresh and stimulating perspective on the impact of image on the assessment of a technical matter. I reckon that what I will say in just 10 minutes time may come across as overgeneralizing and exaggerated, and God help me without a single chart to back it up. Consequently, what I will provide is really just an impulse that you can deal with as you think fit. So I hope that works. Yeah. Moreover, if my little ambush at the beginning made you angry because you felt caught in the act of bias, or because you think the analogy between posture scanning and the assessment of technical facts is shady, or simply because you don't like the way this is going, keep that anger alive. Because emotions are at the heart of what what we will be dealing today. Because no, so in this talk this talk is about why image is worth keeping an eye on, and it's based on the example of DNS-OARC, stating common perceptions of it, giving a broad outline of its history, of the history that led to these perceptions, and finally sketching both the challenges DNS-OARC supporters are facing today and the potential approaches to addressing them. Let's jump right into it. What is the image of DNS-OARC? Yeah, it's not pretty. So as all this is probably familiar to you, I will just browse through the list without much comment. So it's old, it's uncool, it's dead, it's complicated to implement and to use, is expensive, it causes outages, it burdens the camel, it's unnecessary, it doesn't do confidentiality. Well, that's my favorite one, I must admit, because as you know, DNS-OARC is by design meant to do integrity, period. So it's not perfect. It's not what our customers want. It's unheard of. DNS what? Sorry. Well, and that's the best of all scenarios. Nobody uses it anyway. And it can't be good because if it was, it would be much better deployed. And that's what you call a vicious circle. Okay. So how did that come about? Let's have a brief look at DNS-OARC history, or fate, as one might be inclined to say instead. Yes. And as we are worshippers of the goddesses of both rationality and causality, let's tell the story in the of course mode, meaning this one thing happened and then of course that other thing happened. You'll see it would mainly work, and then when it won't, it will get interesting. Back in 2005, with security awareness rising, the RFCs 4033 to 35 defined the DNS-OARC protocol, designed to guarantee the integrity of DNS answers. Because of that, of course, it is regarded as a useful protocol, likely to be universally deployed. This usefulness, of course, leads some people to promote DNS-OARC in a rather patronizing and polarizing way. If you don't do DNS-OARC, you're not doing security right. In turn, still other influential people, of course, got wound up about DNS-OARC's necessity and peddled it to everyone regardless of their technological maturity, leading, of course, to massive outages. As the tech community is very fact and number driven, of course, these outages got thoroughly documented, namely on the IANX website. Of course, this led to a massive drop in trust, resulting, of course, in low deployment rates for DNSSEC. Of course, it also drew some other people's attention to DNSSEC's actual or alleged failures, who in turn felt they should pinpoint DNSSEC as enemy number one. And of course, this set a DNSSEC bashing trend. Of course, very effectively relayed by internet longevity. Seeing the obvious difficulties users of DNSSEC were facing, of course, experts have continued their work on DNSSEC to allow for smoother implementation and maintenance, namely via automation. And of course, nobody noticed. With the result that, of course, in 2025, secure delegations are still scarce. Okay, there was a little logical bump here, wasn't it? Let's get back to it. So, in response to the massive availability problems caused by flawed implementation and maintenance, DNSSEC people crafted more user-friendly protocols. But not only did people not reconsider their stand on DNSSEC based on the new developments at hand, they didn't even notice them. That means they got impacted by image, by the story that was being told. Just as an aside, while story and image are not the same thing, they are interdependent, and I'll use them as synonyms considering the brevity of this talk. So let's keep in mind the idea of story and go back to our DNSSEC history. We will see that story is everywhere. The most interesting item this time comes first. DNSSEC started out as a no-brainer. So people were naturally inclined to think that it needed no story. Even more so, it didn't even occur to them. And that seems quite sensible, doesn't it? In the 2019 movie Yesterday, the soon-to-be world-famous protagonist asks his manager, "Do I have to have an image?" To what she replies, "Well, if you don't have an image, then the lack of image becomes an image." And I would add, oh no, I'm doing it. And I would add, then other people are gonna craft your image without your input. And that's what happened right afterwards. Story. So yeah, promotion, subliminal messages, story. Outages, story. Documentation of it, referenced to this day, story. Roaring blog post, story. Low deployment, remember the vicious circle? Story squared. Oh, I left out some. Okay. But that's not all. I promised you emotions. There you go. Let's have a look at that history again. So it all starts out with the satisfaction of the developers. Nice. But then when the good word gets spread, pride gets involved, and on both sides. Pride of the promoters, but also pride of those who are running their servers at the best of their ability. And that's where things go south very quickly. And really, it's easy to embrace what people running servers will have felt when somehow forced to implement DNSSEC, they experience outages. Not only distress, but downright face loss. As these outages become more widespread and get thoroughly documented, anger flares up on the server running end. And as a response to that, DNSSEC supporters experience shame, even though they assume flawed implementation and or maintenance will have caused the outages. Some people jump on the bandwagon and angrily badmouth DNSSEC. But not just like that. As I was told by a reliable source, yes, we're going tabloid style, but that's exactly what this talk is about. The author of the most notorious anti-DNSSEC blog post was a former DNSSEC supporter who became an outcast for violating the hacker code of conduct and who thereafter turned against DNSSEC, as in revenge. And this is now 2025. From what I have seen since I started my work earlier this year, there's a lot of former DNSSEC advocates, stellar people really, who seem kind of heartbroken about DNSSEC's unlucky fate, who distance themselves from it like you would from cheesy songs you were fond of in your teens, and who seem to feel a kind of shameful detachment that rather differs from adult equanimity, preventing them from speaking out in favor of DNSSEC, even now as DNSSEC is about to be objectively mature. What do we learn from this? Human behavior is often irrational, yeah, we know, even within communities that think highly of rationality and define themselves by it. Even there will be not only facts, but also hearsay and gossip. And all of that may bend people's assessment of factual matters and respectively hinder them in perceiving new developments which could alter their assessment. In short, story matters. People also have feelings regarding other people, but also regarding the fate of factual matters they care for because they work on it or have worked on it in the past. Sometimes that will make them behave irrationally, or they might keep their feelings muted because it seems inadequate to have them in the first place. This in turn distorts how people will stand up for ill-fated devices even when they secretly care. In short, emotions matter. Thus, even in a fact-driven community like this one, human irrationality and people's emotions are factors that need to be taken into account, or at least remembered when things go south, and at best before they do. As a consequence, even technical matters and need storytelling, so engage in it. If you think that's distasteful, remind yourself that storytelling is not bad, it's just human. And your story doesn't have to be a mad raving. Tell whatever story needs to be told. Just don't leave it to others, and remember that even if you started it, the story will be told continuously with or without your input. So be alert for the version that will be unfolding and react. And if you face a problem like the one DNSSEC is facing now, odds are just working harder on the factual matter won't help, nor will more explanations. Whether you want or not, you will have to engage in storytelling, and deeply so. Okay, so what does this mean for DNSSEC specifically? So on the factual side, DNSSEC has to become simpler, and yes, namely by DS automation, and this is where Peter's work kicks in. But we also need to tackle the image issue. So this is end like 10 minutes, or this is end like 15 minutes? Nice. Right. Okay. So we need to tackle also, we need to tackle the image issue by making DNSSEC simpler on a factual level by automation. Peter's work, you heard about it yesterday. But tackling the image issue at hand also means tackling it on a discourse level. And that's what we're doing in our project. So we are providing updated information on DNSSEC's actual state of the art in doing press articles, conference talks, podcast episodes. We're doing that to put outdated publication into perspective, like this blog post, for example, gets referenced to this day. We try to communicate in a balanced, non-evangelizing way, allowing people to make informed decisions about whether they should use DNSSEC. And we're reaching out to the community by trying to inject lightheartedness and self-deprecating fun into the talk on DNSSEC, like making pechakuchas, for example, at IETF conferences, making talks like this one, creating social media items such as a fake book on DNSSEC history, memes, etc. So, so we won't start DNSSEC afresh. That's impossible. But with automation, there is a chance to make DNSSEC more widely available and manageable. Let's make use of this chance and try not to fall back into bad behavior from the past. As DNSSEC can't afford any more damage to its image, let's work on the DS automation guidance with the scope to eliminate every possible source of breakage. And once in a while, let's have a good laugh about all this. Thank you.
Right.
Hi, it's Alex from Anonymous Labs. Thank you so much for this talk. I think it's fantastic, really. And you could have used IPv6 as an example, or RPKI. RPKI, how it doesn't do path validation, and therefore it's useless. And it's not just about the facts, and it's the way we act as a community. I think it's really fantastic. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I was also Matthijs, I also like to thank your presentation. It's great to have a step back and see where certain problems are, because sometimes it's very easy as a technical person just to fix on a problem. So yeah, and I had a notion it's like news, right? We all remember the bad stories, we remember where the disasters are, but the good stories never tend to stick in our minds. So we need to emphasize more on the good stories as well, because there's this couple of incidents, but if you take it in perspective, it's just a small percentage. So, and obviously it's great if we have automation and other initiatives to lower that percentage to eventually zero. That would be my goal at least.
Thanks.
Shane Kerr, IBM. So again, thank you for this talk. I think it's really good. I've seen many times people talk about deterministic factors for success of technology, economic factors, economics is destiny, and things like that. And I don't think we have to look very far to see that is in itself a story that's a fiction. So presenting the idea that what we tell each other matters, and it's not deterministic, it's not something that you're inheriting, it's something that you can control and participate in is very powerful and very useful. So thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.